It all began on what was meant to be a simple Saturday night. I had gone out with a few coworkers after a long week, planning only to unwind, have a couple of drinks, and head home early. But somewhere between the laughter and casual conversation, I lost control and drank far more than I should have. That's when two strangers approached me and started talking. After that, everything became a haze, fragments of noise, flashing lights, half-remembered moments. When I finally opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed. The harsh fluorescent lights made my head throb, and my mouth felt parched. A nurse explained gently that I had been brought in after collapsing in a club restroom. Apparently, those same strangers had called for help when I became unresponsive. Shame washed over me in a wave as memories of the night flickered back. What could I possibly tell my husband? I had always been careful, loyal, the kind of wife he could count on. And now I found myself in a situation impossible to justify. When he entered the hospital room, I expected a mix of worry and anger. Instead, I found a distance in his eyes, cold, unreadable distance. He listened quietly as the doctor spoke, nodded, and then sat in the corner with his arms crossed. When I reached for his hand, he pulled back. My heart sank. Something was very wrong. The drive home was silent, the weight of that silence unbearable. Once we stepped inside, I finally asked what was troubling him. That's when he revealed that he already knew more than I had realized. One of his friends had been at the same club and had seen me leave with those two strangers before I was taken to the hospital. His voice shook as he asked how I could do this, to him, to us. My mind went blank. I didn't even remember leaving with anyone. I tried to explain that it must have been a misunderstanding, that I couldn't recall a thing. But the look in his eyes told me he had already made up his mind. He didn't need proof, he was convinced. In his eyes, I had betrayed him. For days, I tried to reason with him. I swore that nothing had happened, that I had never been unfaithful. But every word only pushed him further away. He moved into the guest room, came home late, and treated me like a stranger. It felt like living beside a ghost. The man who once loved me now hollow and unreachable. One evening, he finally said the words I had dreaded. He was leaving. He explained that he couldn't trust me anymore. Even if I hadn't physically been unfaithful, my carelessness had shattered his faith in me. He told me he had given me his entire heart, and now he felt like a fool. When I reached to touch his hand, he recoiled as if my skin burned him. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever endured. I replayed that night endlessly, torturing myself with what-ifs. What if I hadn't gone out? What if I had stopped after one drink? What if I had just called him instead? But there were no answers, only a broken marriage and a pit of regret. Soon, through mutual friends, I learned he had been telling people that he caught me cheating, that I had been seen with two men. None of it was true, but I had no way to prove otherwise. The story spread quickly, and before long, I was labeled the wife who had betrayed a good man. My reputation crumbled. My heart ached knowing I couldn't change what he believed. Sometimes I wanted to scream to the world that I had been careless, not unfaithful. But screaming wouldn't bring him back. His side of the bed was empty, his belongings gone, his love reduced to a memory. That's when I realized a painful truth. Sometimes perception weighs heavier than reality. He didn't want to hear me. He didn't want to forgive. For him, trust was dead. I had to make a choice for myself. I focused on healing, went to therapy, and cut out the reckless habits that had led me there. I vowed never again to let alcohol or strangers dictate my life. The scars of losing him remained, but I learned to rebuild piece by piece. Even now, I sometimes see him in my dreams, smiling the way he once did before everything fell apart. I wake up crying, wishing I could go back to that night and make it right. But life doesn't give second chances. All I can do is carry the lesson forward. Love cannot survive without trust. Once it is broken, even carelessness can feel like betrayal.